It's a new round of SDH AM. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. We're stacked. And there's news in addition to being stacked. So it's a full show across a lot of different things. So here's the guest rundown, and then we'll get into the topics outside of the guests, and the guests may drift into the topics and so on and so forth. We got KCD coming in at 9:15-ish, and I think, we might set a record for leagues discussed when we have a guest in on a segment, because with KCD, we're talking college, we're talking USL Championship, we're talking USL Super League, and we're talking NWSL, which lends us an ear and an opening into a deal that happened in the overnight that involves, actually, as karma would have it, or as the circle would have it, one of the teams that KCD covered on the weekend. So we'll get into that with KCD. After KCD, it is Scott Wells, the head coach of Gardner-Webb. We'll discuss their win in Morgantown and their season to date, and take a peek at the roster and how things are up there at Gardner-Webb in Boiling Springs, North Carolina. That's hour number one. Hour number two, we get into the news a little bit, because you had a dismissal. I don't know if you want to call it a sacking, seems kind of rough. You had a dismissal in the Premier League and a new manager named before we came on the air this morning at Nottingham Forest. We'll get into that story. We have also the story of Independiente. If you saw that video or heard about the video yesterday, when we got into the discussion about the Copa Sudamericana, and we have followed Independiente along to this particular point. Yesterday, the club releases a video, and they read a prepared statement. And so we'll get into that. So you have that. You have Manchester City and APT that we have to get into. So Nuno, the NWSL, Independiente, and Copa Sudamericana. It is Manchester City and APT, and anything else going on that we might have missed leading into the morning. 10:30, Chris Doran, play-by-play voice for Columbus Crew, is going to join us, and we're going to start our opposition research leading into the weekend, get the early thoughts of maybe what the vibe is in Columbus with the USMNT taking on Japan tonight. We'll catch up with Chris about that. And there was a bummer on Chris's 280-character feed yesterday about one of the local players that impacts maybe how they look on the weekend. So we'll get the lowdown on Crew with Chris, find out about the break. Was it a good time to break? Was it not? Do you want to have momentum in a street fight? Those kinds of things. We'll kind of break down the Crew roster and figure out what to expect coming in this weekend for the matchup against Atlanta United. So that'll be at 10:30. And then I'm sure that there will be other things that will break as we continue to go forward here this morning. So that's the rundown. So KCD, Scott Wells, news, Chris Doran, more news, and then we're out the door. Rundown as we have it for the remainder of the week. Remember, tonight at 7 o'clock, if you're close to Emory University, go to the Woodruff Library, and you can catch up with Jason and his continuing lecture series having to do with Atlanta being Soccer City, USA. It's a discussion on Emory University's place within it and catching up with both the men's and women's head coaches for Emory University. So that is 7 o'clock tonight at the Woodruff Library at Emory. And so Jason will continue that cyclical quarterly lecture series about Atlanta Soccer City leading up to the world competition when everybody comes to this hemisphere next year. So that is something that the next edition of that is tonight, 7 o'clock with Jason over at Emory. Tomorrow, it is Tyler at 9:15, and hopefully the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, at 10. Then on Thursday right now, it's the Power Hour, Nino and Nico from 10 to 11:05. We'll break down everything going on in qualifying and CONMEBOL. We'll talk about that with Nino. Nico will get you ready for the weekend. and probably the backlash of what happened yesterday with the announcement of the additional matches for Luis Suarez and for Steven Lenhart. So we'll get into that this morning, but then on Thursday, kind of dive into it and see if things have sorted themselves out in the Pacific Northwest as we kind of move forward. And then we're going to catch up with Dan Orlowitz a day later than anticipated. So that'll run on Friday's show, and that'll be the postmortem for this particular window where Japan's national team is concerned in the matchup tonight against the USMNT. We'll get into all of that with Dan on Thursday night, our time, and it'll run in Friday's show, in addition to hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30 and our friends at Major League Soccer at 10. So that's the rundown for the week. So busy times. No real shock that it is busy. And it's good to be busy and having a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Morning, Abby. Morning, David. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Nix. And yeah, that also, Nix has something to discuss that was brought up this morning. So Ray Hudson is hanging up the microphone. He announced it this morning on the satellite radio. And it was a big article by Richard Deitch in The Athletic, for those of you that subscribe to that. And it was a breakdown of how he kind of came into things with Gold TV, moved over to BN, and became this combination of lightning rod and comet all at the same time. So Ray Hudson hanging him up, I think, at the age of 70. But and Ray is one of those that is polarizing. I'm not going to fib about that. And I don't think I'm talking out of school. That with Ray, you either dug him or you didn't. And then he was able to, with Messi as his muse, as Deitch referred to it this morning, carry that over to the early seasons with Messi and friends down in Fort Lauderdale. So Ray Hudson, one of the voices of the game, hanging him up after this year. So that's the other piece of news this morning that Nix has brought to the table. And Abby, this is probably prevailing wisdom. You're not alone in this. 3 matches was not enough for Suarez. And yeah, like I said, we'll get that this morning as we go. Wasting no time. We are wasting no time. I don't even know if that qualifies as opening kickoff. Just blowing through everything that's going on this morning. So we'll see what KCD has on her mind and on her plate, because it's like 98 different leagues that she actually called matches in last week. So we'll bring in KCD and ask the question, KCD, how you be, where you be?
Oh, I'm back home. I just got back yesterday. I'm a little disheveled this morning, and
look, I'm always disheveled, so it's
getting a little sick. So if you hear my voice, I might have pushed it a little bit too far this past weekend, but we got it done. So
man, and one of the things before we get into the games, I do want to ask you this, as someone who is navigating all these different leagues, all these different teams, all these different things. Break down your weekend. I guess start with the matches that you called, and break down your travel and your week and how you got through the other side of it.
Okay, I will just go through last Thursday. I had UNC versus Alabama game that was here locally in Chapel Hill. So I had to travel the very long trek of 2 miles to the stadium. So that was nice. Had that on UNC's campus. I flew out Friday about noon to Fort Lauderdale, had a Friday night broadcast. It was the USL Championship. Then I had a Saturday night broadcast, which was Spokane versus Fort Lauderdale United of the USL Super League. Then I had 2 on Sunday, starting at 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. I had another Super League game, Lexington, Brooklyn, and then Angel City, Gotham, NWSL. And then I flew back at 7 a.m. on Monday morning, so yesterday. So probably why I'm not feeling too great. Got a little scratchy throat, got a little sneezing going on, but we got through. They were a lot of fun.
And that's why you are one of the hardest working people in show business, and that's why we try to bring you in to break all this stuff down. And so let's go ahead and start at the beginning of the batting order and talk about the 2 mile drive. It's still non-conference play and trying to figure out, okay, where are we as we go into conference play? takeaways from Alabama and North Carolina as they showed up for you and then decided to leave?
I'll be honest, I was really nervous for the Tar Heels in this game. I think Alabama has a lot of really good attacking players. They like to press from the front. I thought they were going to try to catch them off guard in transition, but UNC showed up to play. They won 4-0. They looked the most fluid attacking-wise I had seen. And it was really more about UNC looking at a certain standard, not Alabama looking bad. I could tell Alabama still had a really great team. But on the night, UNC just looked very comfortable in possession. They were much more dangerous in the final third. Weeks ago, you and I spoke about that. I said, they've got some really good things going, but the final third just isn't dangerous. It's not clicking. This game, it finally did. There were some great passes in behind, some good finishing. And if you don't have that on a certain day, that game could be a lot closer. It ended up being a 4-0 win for UNC over Alabama. But it was a really good performance, honestly, from both sides. And the reason I say that is because then Alabama goes in to play Duke on the weekend and ties Duke. So we know Alabama is a very good team, but UNC just had a really good night, really good performance.
SEC Offensive Player of the Week, Vandy forward Allie Bolig from Aiken, South Carolina, gets the big goal for Vandy in their win over number 16 Georgetown Thursday night. Now get this. This was something I did not know. Sidelined for 3 years due to injury. First career goal for Allie Bolig for Vandy in their win over Georgetown. Gets the winner just before the half as they get their first top 25 win since 2022. On the flip side of that, keeper union, Jess will be happy to hear about this. Defensive Player of the Week, Vandy keeper Sarah Wojdelko. She got the win in pair of shutouts against Georgetown in Middle Tennessee. Freshman of the Week, Alabama keeper Madi Munguia. Freshman from Puyallup, Washington, from the Palouse. 4 crucial saves, limiting number 3 Duke to just 1 goal. Second time this year, Duke has been limited to just 1 goal as they've scored multiple goals in 4 of their 5 previous matches. So Alabama shuts Duke down, and that's your rundown of your players of the week for September 8th in the SEC. Standings as we have them right now, and provided that John could actually, hit the right button and, actually show things the way that they're supposed to be.
I might be asking too much, John. Come
yes,
on.
it is. Absolutely true. Right now, Oklahoma unbeaten, 7-0-1. Tennessee, 6-0-1. Vandy has now won 3 in a row. They're 6-1 overall. Mississippi State, Klanga has won 3 in a row. They're 5-1. South Carolina, 6-1-1. Ole Miss has now won 4 in a row after not getting a win in their first one, so they're at 4-1. Bama has now drawn, so that's an interesting streak at 5-1-1. Kentucky's 6-2. A&M's 3-1-3. Auburn's on the north side of 4 wins. Georgia's got 4 wins. Everybody down to Texas, who's 2-4-1 right now. Everybody in the SEC, they're at 500 or above when it comes to their your non-conference schedule so far. I mean, this is kind of what we expected with the SEC, true?
It is. And I think it's even more than potentially expected from a top to bottom performance through the SEC. We always expect it to be a good conference, but I think that they're performing at a very high level all the way across the board. Tennessee had that tie with Memphis, which I think if you don't follow women's college soccer very much, you could think, why is Tennessee tying Memphis? But Memphis is a perennial conference winner. They go into the NCAA tournament and perform very well. So that was actually a very hard test for Tennessee in a lot of ways, just based on the style of play of how Memphis handles that type of opposition. But Ole Miss as well. I'm actually in Oxford in about 10 days for a game, Ole Miss, Georgia. So I'm on the road again. So in about 10 days from now, I'm kind of like fingers crossed that they both keep winning, because I think that's going to be a really nice matchup in Oxford.
ACC on the women's side, you've got Duke unbeaten, Notre Dame unbeaten, Virginia unbeaten. They're all 5-0-1 out of the blocks. Notre Dame has scored 22 goals. They have given up 3. That is not the largest margin that we're going to talk about here in a sec. Florida State at 4-0-1. They've only given up 1 goal. They've scored 20. Louisville continues. They've now won 6 in a row. They're 7-1. Their goal difference is plus 33. They have scored 37 and given up only 4. Stanford not far behind at plus 25 at 30-5. Miami, the dirty, rotten, cheating scoundrels from the University of Coral Gables, are 5-1-1. Wake at 5-1-1, North Carolina. Your Heels are 6-2 with a goal difference of plus 19. SMU is on the north side of 500. So is BC and Syracuse. They've won 4. Pitt's won 4. Virginia Tech's won 4. Clemson 3-1-3. The only teams that are below 500 in non-conference. Cal at 3-1-4, and NC State in 1-5-2. What about the ACC on the women's side?
Well, one of the things I thought was really important, I got to talk about my Tar Heels, was the shutout piece. I was talking about it on the Alabama call because they have 2 sophomores, 2 freshmen, and my biggest question for them was against really good talent in defending transition. Could they stay focused enough at the highest level? And so getting 2 shutouts in a row, well, actually more than that, I think. I don't know if it was 2 in a row, but might be 3. I think that was really important for them as they go into ACC play. But the ACC top to bottom, high performing. Virginia, as we always know, is very good. My question mark is on them. Can they turn the possession that they have, and they really show that in non-conference play, into conference play, but also the dangerous final third play? We all always have a lot of respect for what UVA can do from a ball retention perspective. Now it's about, can you do that against the highest level competition and have that turn into goals? And so that's what I want to keep a watch on.
Men's side, just in the interest of equal time, they haven't played as many and they haven't scored as many. So Louisville unbeaten at 4-0. Clemson at 3-0-1. Cal's got 3 wins. NC State's got 3 wins. North Carolina's got 3. Virginia's got 3. Wake has 3. Stanford's 4-1. Everybody once again battling in and around 500. Then you get to Notre Dame, who's off to a slow start at 1-1-2. BC's at 2-3. So once again, everybody, it's like they're lining them up. They're taking their shots, and everybody's still kind of doing well so far non-conference on the men's side. But this is just, once again, the predecessor to get you ready for conference play. There haven't been a whole lot of goals scored in the men's, actually in the entire conference of the ACC. So it's kind of feeling everybody out right now when it comes to offense and defense.
Everyone's beating up on each other, that's for sure. And I haven't taken a deep dive into the men's side by any means, but I think it's an interesting trend, like you were saying, that there hasn't been as many goals. Like, will that stay that way throughout conference play? Because usually it does get stingier. Like, non-conference is where you're usually finding, the ability to score goals, and matchups usually allow that. But I'm really interested to see, like, are they going to break through in conference, or is it going to be a lot of 1-0 wins, 2-1, 1-1? What is it going to be as they go throughout that?
Yep. All right. Now to the USL Championship. We'll turn the page there. And the late night that you got to have with the matchup that you got with Phoenix and Vegas, was this one at Cashman or at the corner of 38th and Washington? Where was this?
Yeah, it was in Phoenix. It was in Phoenix. Yeah. So they were hosting. I was actually on the Las Vegas feed for it. So I was on that call, and I tell you what, myself and my broadcast partner, Michael Watrain, we expected like a 4-4 game, 3-4, 4-4, 3-3, wide open, talking to both of these coaches. And I'll tell you what, it was wide open in a lot of ways, and it was a 0-0 tie, and we could not believe it. Both teams just didn't look very sharp, to be quite honest with you. There were some opportunities, but it really never felt like either team was going to implement a real attacking style, which was really interesting because Phoenix has conceded the most goals, but they've also scored the most goals. And Las Vegas has the most clean sheets, but is second in conceding goals, and they don't score a lot of goals. So it was a weird matchup in a lot of ways. But I think what was at play is the Western Conference is so incredibly tight. Mm-hmm. 5th through 8th is a 4-way tie now. And even Las Vegas, who has had a very rough year, is only 6 points out of the playoffs. So 3 points would have gone a long ways. So both teams were going for it, but it just looked flat, and it just looked a little bit, not as sharp as I think both coaches would have liked.
To give everybody an idea about the Western Conference, Tulsa, which to me is one of the shocks of the season, they have pieced it together. They've won 12 of 23. They're 6 points clear of Sacramento. Sacramento had it kind of rough last year. Mark Briggs and Sacramento decided to part ways. Briggs is now in Birmingham, and Sacramento 6 points back. They're 5 points ahead of El Paso. And this is where the chaos starts, because if you were to take El Paso in 3rd and go down to Orange County in 9th to expand on what you were talking about, 7 teams separated by 4 points just to either maintain your spot in the playoffs or, in Orange County's place, try to hop in. Then after Orange County in ninth, 4 more points to that Vegas group that you were talking about. They've got their own little attack pack going on. Vegas, Oakland, Monterey, they're all at 24 points. So the Eastern Conference, actually 3 to the bottom is separated by 8 points. You have 10 teams separated by 8 points, either trying to stay in or get in the Western Conference. That is insane to me.
We don't normally see that in the USL Championship. You definitely see pockets of where you think that there's going to be some movement in the standings, but from 3 all the way to the bottom, that's pretty crazy to see that type of play. And that's why I think I was a little bit underwhelmed with the game that I had, because Phoenix needed 3 points, in my opinion, just as much as Las Vegas did because of how tight the Western Conference is. You have teams like the Colorado Springs Switchbacks who started the year in a really rough way from a points perspective. Anyone who watched their games knew that they were playing well. They just could not figure out how to get points. They had a lot of individual mistakes. They're still right in it, and they're playing well. So when it comes down the stretch, I think this is about how you manage your group. How do they perform under pressure? What players step up individually? Because you don't need it to be pretty at this point. You need it to be effective. And a team like Phoenix could have really helped themselves by jumping out of that mayhem a little bit, and they weren't able to do it.
Back to the Peloton. Loud 33, Hartford at 32, along with Detroit City. Hartford has 1 more win. Riverhounds at 31, and then the race to get in is where you have your chaos. Indy's at 26, they're the 8. Rhode Island's at 24, 2 points back. Legion at 22, 4 points out of the playoffs. Tampa Bay, 5 points back, and then the Miami FC, not a Miami FC, but the Miami FC, as they wish to be identified. They've now lost 4 in a row. They were in the race a little bit. They've now lost 4 in a row. They're at 20.6 points out of the playoff spot. So you've got 1 and 2 in the East. They've pulled away. Then you have Loudoun, who's kind of cruising around, and there's chaos that they're having to deal with in their front office. Then the group 4 through 7 going for positioning, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we'll go ahead and include the Miami FC trying to get in. So it's a different kind of chaos in the East.
It is. It's a little bit more narrowed, a little bit more focused on what your current issue is in the standings. I wouldn't sleep on Rhode Island. I know they had a year last year in their inaugural season that no one really expected, but they do have a coach in Cotto Smith who's been there, done that at the highest level. And I think, like I said, I think managers become really important. They're always important, but at the end of the day, it's a player's game. But this time of year, down the stretch, how you manage your players, how you generate buy-in, and all those types of things, I think just could become something that's a small margin that really gets you over the edge.
This is one of the first times that we have had the opportunity to jump in and talk about the Super League, the USL Super League. And since our friends at Gamebridge have yet to sponsor us, we're just going to call it the Super League or the USLS. Right now, you've had a couple of matches in, anywhere from 2 to 4. It's early returns. You had a couple of games, and it was Spokane and Fort Lauderdale United, Lexington and Brooklyn FC. I want to take it a match at a time and just get your breakdown on Spokane. Spokane, I think, has kind of found something just as a soccer home, because you see what they're doing in USL League One, and now you're seeing it roll over into the USLS. I think that Spokane has really shown themselves to be a great market in the USL coming out of the block.
They are. And I had a really good conversation with Josh McAllister, who's the interim head coach right now for Spokane, but he's the overall technical director and an assistant with Spokane Velocity. So he was really interesting in the way he approached this first half of the season. Spokane Zephyr had an amazing spring in the inaugural season. They just couldn't quite get over the playoff line because their fall put them way too far behind. But I remember calling a game of theirs in the fall of 2024. And of all the teams, I felt like they played the best style of soccer. And I was like, I don't understand why they're not getting wins. They just couldn't figure it out. And a lot of that was just in the boxes, some mistakes here and there, not able to finish. But he said, we can't dig ourselves into a hole. And it was unfortunate in this game because they were by far the better team across 90 minutes against Fort Lauderdale United and still were not able to figure out the victory. I mean, it's still early days, but I think there's a lot of positives coming out of Spokane. I expect them to be a team that can compete at the top of the Gamer Super League, but I'll be interested to see if they can figure it out or if it's the same as 2024.
Fort Lauderdale right now, they are second in the table after 3. They are at 1 win, 2 draws, and 5 points. Dallas Trinity right now, they're 3 for 3. They're well ahead. They're already setting an early marker in this one. The other match that you called, once again, it's another market in Lexington with Lex SC when they went up against Brooklyn. It's another market that seems to be warming to what's been going on both the men's side in League One and now the women's side in Super League. So Lex and Brooklyn, I know that Brooklyn's had a lot of issues trying to figure out where they're going to play and all the off the field stuff. But Brooklyn and Lex right now, Brooklyn's played 4 matches. They're already 4 matches in on their season. Lexington's only played 2. Thoughts on this one?
This is the team to watch, Lexington. So you took me right to where I wanted to go. They look very good in a lot of ways. They brought in so many players in the offseason that were top players in other teams. You bring in Masaki Himi as the head coach, who was the interim at Chicago Stars for a little while. He comes in. You bring in Addison McCain, who had 10 goals on the season last year. Taylor Almer, a really good holding midfielder, captain of the team. Just different players in different roles. Amina Ekic, who was the Super League Player of the Year, came over. She plays in the wide space. There is some great attacking talent in this Lexington team. And Brooklyn in this matchup did not have any answers. Yes, they went on the road. Yes, they're 4 games in, but we were previewing it saying, well, Lexington's only, 1, 2 games in. Like they probably 1 game in, actually. They're probably going to be so excited at their home facility to have this game. But Brooklyn is more played in. They should be more comfortable in their system. And it was the complete opposite, where Lexington looked extremely comfortable in the style of play they wanted to play. They were stingy defensively, had a great 4-4-2 block. Like, it was really fun to watch. And I tell you this, the entire level of the Super League has taken a big step up from last year. It was a solid level for a first-year league, but this year it's gotten even better. And I've already seen that just 2 games in.
Let's wrap up with the NWSL. And in addition to what you got to see with Gotham and Angel City, we'll talk about the match first and then the news that happened in the overnight involving Gotham. Gotham and Angel City takeaways from this one as they're getting to the money part of the schedule.
You're not going to hear this very often, but I think the worst thing that happened to Angel City is they scored in the 2nd minute of this game. Normally when that happens, you're thinking, okay, we're flying. This is great. We can dictate the game. We're going to have confidence. We can generate more opportunities. But they are so thin in their roster right now, 19 total players, especially in the attack. So they weren't really generating a lot of opportunities. And Gotham woke up immediately. And Angel City wasn't bad the rest of the first half, but they weren't really ever dangerous. And Gotham started to take over. But what was the difference? So Andy Spence was the interim or acting head coach, I should say, not interim head coach, because Juan Carlos Amoros had yellow card accumulation. So he was up in the stands. And there were subs made at halftime. Midge Purse came in and Rose Lavelle. That must be nice to have to bring off your bench, right? And Midge Purse, we know, has kind of been in and out and coming back from injury, a lot of different things. Same with Rose Lavelle. But there was an obvious wide area opportunity to take advantage, and that's what he did. It was a great substitution because Midge Purse was excellent in the wide space, and goals came in the 2nd minute, and then just 4 or 5 minutes later, they scored a 2nd goal, and Gotham never looked back. So Gotham had control the majority of this game and ended up getting the deserved 3 points.
Middle of the pack right now is where it's interesting. Obviously, Kansas City Current, they are just doing a horizon job on everybody else. They are like way out here at 16-2-1, which is crazy to think about. 49 points, 14 points clear of Washington, who's in 2nd at 35. Then the fun begins. San Diego, Portland, Orlando, Gotham, Seattle, and Racing Louisville all separated by 4 points. 6 teams, 4 points, and that gets you to 8. Then you have Houston and Angel City and Courage, who are kind of chasing right now. They're anywhere from 3 to 4 points back. Bay is at 17. The Stars at 14 points in 13th, and Utah is at 12. I thought it was really interesting, just as a bit of a side note. Chicago played at the lakefront at Martin Stadium on the campus of Northwestern. Packed house, full crowd. I thought it was a great vibe. If I was anybody of any influence at all in the NWSL, I would tell Chicago, stay there.
Yes.
Don't move. Stay right where you are.
Definitely. And it looks like they're going to be for 2026. So it sounds like that's going to be happening. But you're right. It just atmosphere-wise, everything. And then they got the result out of it. So they definitely capitalized.
All right. Last topic for you, so you can go and rest your voice and actually spend some time and like unplug and put things down. In the overnight, Jeff Kassouf comes out with a blockbuster of a deal. Courage agreed to trade Jaden Shaw to Gotham for $1,250,000, $1,250,000. Multiple sources confirmed to the 4 letters, so that doubles the intra-league NWSL record set a month ago. Ranks among some of the top global transfers. So Jaden Shaw from Courage to Gotham. I thought that was really interesting. It doubles the $600,000 that we talked about previously when Allie Sentner goes with the Kansas City and Utah deal. $1.25 million for Jaden Shaw, and she gets a change of address.
I woke up this morning a little sick, like I told you, and I thought I was like not reading properly when I saw this. Like, not because of Jaden Shaw leaving, but the amount. I couldn't believe it. I will say this: Jaden Shaw at North Carolina just has not really worked. That could be a whole nother conversation, but it hasn't really worked all year, and so I'm not surprised this is happening. You get that much money for a player, you can do a lot with that, which is great. I think she has a big opportunity going into Gotham. Obviously, you have Astaire. Astaire's not going anywhere, but you can supplement with her. You've got Jace up top, you have Porchillo, you have Midge Purse, but none of those 3 are players that I think have really established that they can't be taken off the field at any given time. So you insert Jaden Shaw into that with Rose Lavelle. I think it just increases your depth in that area. It gives her a new lease on her experience and just gets to start over and see if this could be a good fit for her.
All right. So when you recover and you get your voice back and you're not sick and running a temperature of like 190.
You see me in my jacket. I'm normally not in a jacket.
You're all dialed up in your Tar Heel trim. What's the next joints on the rundown for you? Where do you head next?
So I have a game tomorrow night, but it's at home. From my home right here, I will have Wake Forest versus Miami on the ACC network live from home. So I'll be sitting right here calling a game, which is so fun. One day I'll turn my computer around and let you guys see my setup.
There you go.
So I have that tomorrow night, and then I go to Chicago on Friday for Chicago Fire NYC. So it's a lighter week, but I still have travel. So I am going to take the next few days and just kind of try to hang out in Chapel Hill and recover a little bit, but it should be fun.
Okay. So do you know who your broadcast partner is when you go to Chicago Fire? Wow. She hit a button. She was trying to sit there and do something. Yeah, here we go. She hit a button. It's like, Case, what are you doing?
I didn't hit a button. You froze. I swear.
I hit no freezing, young lady.
Well, on my side it froze. Sorry about that.
Who's your broadcast partner?
My broadcast partner tomorrow night is Joe Malfa, who I've called a lot of games with across a lot of leagues, and he's the head play-by-play now for ACC Network,
right?
For men's college soccer.
Right.
And he does women's as well. And then I have Jess Charman on the weekend.
So it is the Wonder Twins this weekend.
Yeah, the remainder of our MLS assignments are together. So I think we have, after this weekend, we have 3 more again. So the last 4 will be together.
Sweet. The Wonder Twins are in Chicago. And is it at Bridgeview or is it at Soldier Field?
Soldier Field.
Okay, good, because you're at the spaceship instead of having to drive an hour southwest to go to Bridgeview, where there's like office parks and nothing else.
Yes, we're excited about that. It should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be diving into that game pretty much tomorrow and go from there.
Good deal. All right, go get healthy and enjoy your calls, and we'll catch up with you next week in the same time slot where you get to discuss what it was like in Chicago and what it's like in the ACC, plus all the other leagues you covered. We did set a modern day record, by the way.
I love that. I'm proud to be a part of that. Now I got to recover. Thanks for having me.
There. Now Kacey can go and recover. That's the easy part. So Kacey can go, and she's going to go and go hang out with dogs and things and just kind of decompress a little bit. Okay. It is 9:40. It is time to go to Boiling Springs, North Carolina, I think. And it's time to okay, so it looks like he's either in his office or his home, one of the two. So we'll figure it out. So somewhere close to Boiling Springs, North Carolina. We'll catch up with our friend Scott Wells, the head coach of Gardner-Webb. Sir, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, Scott. What's going on?
Not much. Great to be back on again. Maybe not as much USL 2 relation this time, which is good as well.
Hey, it's all good. And the reason that we wanted to circle back with you is because of the hot start that you've got, ranked top 20, and depending on which poll you're discussing. And before I kind of get into the season in general with what's been going on with you so far and with Gardner-Webb, I kind of wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit. And for folks that may not understand what it's like in Division I soccer to go from point A to point B and get all the travel squared away and road trips and all this kind of stuff, after the win against West Virginia, and I do want to discuss that too. After the win against West Virginia, I texted you and I was like, that was epic. And I'm paraphrasing. That was epic. I want you to come on the show. So you were coming home overnight from the match after you got everything all squared away. You were coming home overnight. You might have gotten in a nap before you had to take folks to school. Is this accurate?
Yeah. We drove home through the night, and I think I got in around 6, and then worked the kids up, had breakfast, took them to school, and then was kind of still on an adrenaline rush, to be honest. So went in the office for a little bit, and shamefully forgot about our meet. So I apologize for that.
No, it's all good. But what I wanted to do was have folks kind of understand that it's not all glamour when it comes to piecing road trips together and schedules together and going a certain distance. What are some of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to travel in the college game and putting schedules together? What if folks need to know that they may not know when it comes to piecing something like this together?
Yeah, I think obviously first and foremost, you want to schedule top teams. You know, we've not been shy of scheduling top teams since I've been at Gardner-Webb. Obviously, our game against Wake last season as well. But a lot of the times you have to go there, right? You have to go and beat them at their place, which is really difficult. It's a little bit different than the USL 2, where you probably are staying that night, you know, and you've got the budget to potentially do that. Mid-major budgets usually don't have the ability to stay in hotels for multiple nights. But then the other factor, which is the most important decision, is unfortunately the players didn't get any sleep as well. You know, they had to get back. They had to get back to class. You know, if we do go away, we don't get exceptions for the guys missing class. You know, so attendance is huge at the college level. They had to make sure that they were in class at 8 a.m. The boys were asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, I was like, you better get some rest on the way home, because, you know, you guys have got to go to class and take care of that responsibility, which is equally as important. But hopefully they sat at the front row and had a big smile on their face, because I'm sure they were delighted through the day as well. But yeah, I'm sure they were, just like me, they were exhausted by the end of that day.
You are out of the blocks at 5-0. And it's been a really good start for you. You go to the JMU Invitational in Harrisonburg. You knock off Drexel and the hosts. I'm sure that sat well with a lot of the Dukes fans, not Duke fans, but Dukes fans. 1-0 win at James Madison to wrap up that tourney. Then you go to Davidson. Then it's the matchup against West Virginia. It's up there. It's the number 6 team in the country. What was prep like getting ready for that game, knowing that you were going into an angry environment, knowing it was a number 6 team in the country, knowing that you came out of the blocks at 3-0? What was prep for that match like?
Yeah, I think that the message to the guys, you know, leading up to West Virginia was really clear in terms of, okay, who are we going to be this season? You know, are we going to be a team like last season that we had some upsets and we had some great results, but are we still going to be the fringe guys, right? The guys that are happy to be in the top 25, are happy to be sniffing around that national attention? or we're going to be a team that are going to be taken serious here, and we really are a top 10 team, and we're good enough to go to places like West Virginia that hadn't lost in 3.5 years and get a result. It made things a little easier because Dan Stratford is one of my mentors. I worked with him for 2.5 years at Charleston in West Virginia, and we won a national championship together. So I knew exactly how he was going to approach the game tactically and just, in general. So I feel like I was prepared. I'd been prepared for that moment for many, many years to play against him. And then our guys just relished the opportunity to play in big moments. That was our 4th game away. We hadn't played a home game at that point, but our guys were really interested in the atmosphere and really enjoyed it and wanted to be, represent our program in the best possible way on the national stage, and they've done just that. So yeah, it was a great evening. Obviously the challenge that after is keeping their feet on the ground, because it's not really where we are right now in the rankings. It's where we want to be at the end of the season. So they understand that, but we had to draw our attention to ETSU straight away. We had 48 hours before that game, and then again now we're prepping for Furman, who are also a nationally ranked team. So it's just never ending, as you know.
Yep, and when you have a moment like this, and it was a really cool moment to hear. If I can hit the right button, here's how it ended for you in Morgantown.
It's a historic win for Gardner-Webb. It's a result that may reverberate around Division I men's soccer. The message is beware of the Dogs. Number 13, Gardner-Webb, hands West Virginia its first home loss in 1,092 days. A 32-match unbeaten streak for the Mountaineers at the West is over.
There you go. Like that for an ending, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus, huh?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great feeling. I was really upset at the start of the season. We were in no preseason rankings. We were in no watch lists. We finished top 25 team last year, and it was very clear, what the message was. We had a great 2024 season, and it potentially may be difficult to sustain that success. And that's one of the reasons I'm still here, because I wanted to sustain that success. So when you hear things like that, it's pleasing, because that you've been able to show people something that you wanted to achieve, and that was one of the biggest goals for our guys coming in pre-season. So yeah, it's lovely to hear, but we want more. We definitely want more.
Scott Wells, the head coach of Gardner-Webb, hanging out with us after a 5-0 start. Is the Big South, and I guess the group of 5, if you want to use college football parlance, are the non-Power 4 conferences, I don't want to use the word ignored, but how harder is it for a team that is not in a Power 4 conference to get preseason respect, to get rankings respect? Is it the same in soccer as we see in other sports like college football today?
I think there's an element of that, yes, for sure. You take High Point, who have obviously dominated the Big South for many, many years. They deserve the recognition. They are on preseason watch lists individually and collectively, and ranking committees. But they have done it over a period of time. Their body of work is fantastic, right? When I was at UNCG, we were frustrated in the first couple of seasons that we weren't getting national recognition. And if you look at UNCG now, it's getting what it deserves, So I think it's just a case of trying to sustain the success and show them that you're not going away, and that you have a model that works each year. And the expectation of the program is the same each year. And I do think things will get better for Gardner-Webb and for other teams that are doing the same thing. George Mason, another one, Western Michigan, obviously they've been really prolific over the last 4 or 5 years. But we've only done it across 1 year. So I respect that. But I would expect, if we can continue to keep this expectation and this level of detail that we're doing right now, I'd like to think that we are going to be talked about a little bit more. And I want that for my players. That's a big part of retention. If they're not feeling that love and that national recognition, that's where the transfer portal comes back to bite you. So I certainly want that for my guys, and I want that for this program.
How difficult is it with the transfer portal being what it is these days? How much more added difficulty is it to retain and then to fill those slots through the portal? How difficult is it in soccer?
Yeah, it is difficult. I'll be honest with you. When we were in the airport at Denver last season, we'd lost in the second round. The transfer portal was opening that morning. And I told my staff I'd back myself for us to keep our group together. And first 6 meetings, boom, gone. And so unfortunately, that's just the reality that we live in now. I think the hardest part for me and my family and my wife is that January and May is meant to be a little bit easier, a little bit more balanced. in our day-to-day schedules. But unfortunately, you know, you don't know what you're going to lose. You don't know what you're going to retain. And for the mid-majors, it gets harder and harder every year with what some of these Power 4 schools can do now. And that's not me having a bash at anyone. That's just the reality that we're living in now. So we just have to, as a staff, make sure that every transfer portal, every, you know, kind of off season, the recruiting is the level of detail in that recruitment is got to be even better than it has ever been before for people like Gardner-Webb.
You come out of the game in Morgantown. You finally got your first home match coming up. It was 3 days later, which really isn't 3 because it's home and it's recovery. Then it might be a little study. How difficult a turn was it going to Morgantown, driving back overnight, having kids have to go to class, try to navigate practice, and then be ready for that matchup Wednesday, Saturday there at home? How tough a slog was that one?
Yeah, the turnaround time was in college soccer in general is always difficult. And so we knew when we got back that we had the challenge of, you know, the periodization piece and making sure that we could manage their fatigue level, but also get as much information across as possible on ETSU. And then also that was probably more important to see how we react in that game than playing against West Virginia, because you can easily slip up. That's what the beauty of what people love about college soccer is you never know what's going to happen. The upsets that can happen and the circumstances that are going on with every team, you just never know how they'll respond. So my biggest message at ETSU was I wanted a reaction. I wanted people to see that, you know, the West Virginia game was not an upset. You know, it was, and we're gonna treat ETSU at home in front of probably a third of the crowd, the same way that we did against West Virginia. You know, so yeah, and we did. We responded well. We had another clean sheet, which is really, really important. Alan Harrocks, my goalkeeper, got Defensive Player of the Week for the second time, which is fantastic. And it was a very well managed game, and I thought a complete performance. And then again, you finish that game, you celebrate. We do get a little bit more time off now until Friday, but Furman are a top 10 team as well, you know, so it's going to be all hands on deck and preparing again. So the energy and the exhaustion mentally that we have as a staff to be able to prepare the guys and make sure that all of the details are aligned with how they're feeling and what their mood level looks like, it is very, very stressful. But we love what we do. So, you know, most of the time we don't work a day in our life, they say. So.
Top 15 in the rankings, once again, depending on which poll you stare at. Number 36 in the RPI last time. That was punched out. Top, the heaviest schedule ranking in the Big South right now at number 36, just ahead of High Point, who is at number 40. How difficult is it for you to schedule non-conference games because of what you're building there at Gardner-Webb? I would imagine that some folks will sit there and go, yeah, come on, we'll do it, but you got to do it at our place.
Yeah.
And then others would be sitting there going like, nah, no, we're good, you know, and you kind of know why they're saying, nah, we're good. How difficult is it to do non-conference scheduling?
Yeah, it's difficult as you get better and as you get results and you start to build the program. I have to put a shout out to Bobby Moose, because Bobby wanted me to give him recognition for being an ACC team that were willing to go on the road to a Big South team last season. And obviously since that game, you know, it's been very difficult to schedule games at Gardner-Webb. You know, I'm doing the 2026 schedule right now, and not many people are interested in coming to Boiling Springs, and it's challenging for sure. But we're okay. We're happy to go away. You know, it's some of the environments we go away to are really enjoyable to coach in and for the players to play in as well. West Virginia was fantastic. We go to Lipscomb next week. Really excited about that trip as well. Davidson's facility was fantastic. So we're happy to do it, and we're saving our field right now too. Our field is in the best shape it's ever looked because we haven't really played on it too much. So all in all, I don't put too much emphasis on home and away. I think we need to be good enough, especially come the postseason, to be playing in some of the toughest environments that you can, and this will stand us in good stead for sure.
What sets Gardner-Webb apart as a home venue for you guys? What has made it a tough place to play, other than what you've done on the field? What has the environment been able to build over the last couple of seasons? What is making it this tough place to play?
Yeah, when I took the job, the president had said one of his biggest dreams for soccer was to be having a crowd, to be having a fan base, to be having an atmosphere. The community is small outside of Gardner-Webb, And so, we wanted to build that up. And I have been really, really pleased, especially against ETSU. We played another mid-major at home, and we had the whole stand was full, and there was a lot of people on the grass, on the outsides of the grass area around the gates. And so that for me was very pleasing to see that. I speak to my players all the time when they're going to class and they're walking around campus. They're getting a lot more attention too, which is nice. So there is a bit of a hype right now about it. And I have so much support here. I don't want to make out that we don't have the support that other programs do, because we have great people at this university. It's one of the reasons why I'm so happy here is the people. I had my dean and one of the directors of student success come out to practice yesterday and say, hey, what do we need to do for Furman on Friday? Do we need to have food out there? Do we need to get flares, drums? Like, what do we need to do? We had guys on the team speaking this morning at some of our classes about how we need the support. So we're really excited about Friday. And I think, you'll see on the ESPN broadcast that, we're going to make this place a difficult place to come to and a challenging place to get a result. And that's obviously it's took time, across the 3 seasons I've been here. It's took time to generate that kind of excitement. But now we're starting to see, general students say, well, you know what, maybe I'll go home on Saturday morning, maybe I'll stay Friday night for the game, and that is really pleasing. That to have a buzz around that, and for the boys and for the program is really pleasing. And, you feel like you've accomplished something there as well.
And we are looking forward to following you in the Big South as things continue to go here this season. Off to a 5-0 start. Home match with Furman Friday night at 6. It is on the Plus. You can watch it there, or you can just go to Boiling Springs, North Carolina, and see Gardner-Webb hosting Furman. As always, Scott, great to catch up with you and find out what's going on. One of the building programs in the rankings in all of NCAA Division I soccer. Thanks for being a great friend here to the morning show. We'll catch up with you soon. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate you, buddy. I'll speak soon.
You got it. Scott Wells, head coach of Gardner-Webb on the boys' side. And men's soccer right now out of the blocks at 5-0. Once again, ranked 36th in the RPI. And they got that big signature win in Morgantown against West Virginia. So it's good to be able to kind of duck our head in the door and see what's going on there. And as things continue to grow there at Gardner-Webb, to be able to kind of duck our head back in and catch up with Scott and find out what's going on. But keep an eye on the Big South with High Point and with Gardner-Webb. And by the way, full disclosure on their schedule, the High Point game is in Boiling Springs this year, October 25th. So if Gardner-Webb has a home college football game, hopefully it's a 1:00 kick. That's done by 4. You go over to the soccer stadium. The big matchup against High Point is October 25th. So circle that one on your calendar. High Point, Big South, Gardner-Webb at Gardner-Webb. That's the one probably going to determine the 1 and the 2 in that conference. Obviously, power rankings and getting you into the postseason tournament. So keep an eye on Gardner-Webb and the matchup with High Point coming up at the end of October. Man, that was a fast hour number 1. USL Super League, USL Championship, NWSL, SEC, ACC, Big South. That's hour number 1. Once again, bottom of the hour, it's going to be Chris Doran, the play-by-play voice for Columbus Crew. He's going to join us, and he'll break down Crew. He'll look at the vibe in Columbus having to do with the USMNT and the match at the Death Star coming up tonight. And we'll obviously talk about it tomorrow as a part of anything and everything. And I don't know if I don't know if Bart's going to have a voice tomorrow, but we'll certainly find out. So that's kind of where we are right now, and we'll go through all the news that's fit to print. Obviously, the biggest story of the morning, we'll work backward, because like I said, we have to talk about Nuno, we have to talk about Independiente, we have to talk about Luis Suarez and the suspensions. And so that'll be where we are. We'll kind of lead our way into our conversation with Chris Doran coming up at the bottom of the hour. This morning in the Premier League, Ange Postecoglou is now the new head man at Nottingham Forest. Nuno Espirito Santo sacked. And it had been divulged that Nottingham Forest had their new guy already in mind in-house, and it was kind of already figured out. And then it was announced this morning that it's Ange Postecoglou on a 2-year deal. confirmed back in the workings of the Premier League 3 months after he had been sacked by, or dismissed, however you wish to phrase it, by Spurs. Contract understood to run until 27. So now you can win Europa League again. But remember, he always wins things in year number 2. Postecoglou personal relationship with Evangelinas Marinakis. Ben Jacobs had actually, on his 280-character account, mentioned as far back as the 23rd of last month that there had been kind of communication, consultation, and a bit of a back and forth between those two. Breakdown in relations with Nuno led to his departure. Marinakis previously had spoken of his admiration with Postecoglou, bringing in a coach to the club who's proven and consistent record of winning trophies. And so Evangelinas Marinakis goes for a couple of sentences, begins with a game at Arsenal on Saturday, and his reunion with Spurs comes at City Ground in mid-December. Spurs sacked him because they finished 17th in the Prem, losing 22 matches. Nuno led Forest to a 7th place appearance. Much of the season, it looked like they would qualify for Champions League. Postecoglou's playing style, completely and totally different than what Nuno does. And Postecoglou did adjust his tactics so they could win Europa. No signings, obviously, before January. Nuno's departure was announced at 7:15 our time last night, Eastern Time, U.S. Then you end up this morning with Nuno, with Ange Postecoglou being named as the new head coach at Nottingham Forest. Internal conflict, according to The Athletic, obviously had been going on for months. Nuno was outspoken in the media about his relationship with the owner, saying ahead of the side's match against Crystal Palace it had changed and they were, quote, not as close. Marinakis said that Nuno was the right person for the job a week later. I guess that's a vote of confidence. Nuno had also spoken about his disappointment with the club's summer transfer business, saying he was, quote, very worried about his squad on the eve of the new campaign. Completed a club record deal on Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich, signing James McAtee, Arnaud Calamuendo, and Douglas Luiz in their 13 summer signings. Forest picked up 4 points in their opening 3 Premier League matches. Nuno's final game, the 3-0 loss to West Ham prior to the international break. And so that is where you are with Ange Postecoglou coming in, the relationship with Edu and Nuno. Edu kind of as the sporting director. It traditionally was that Nuno could have conversations with Marinakis fairly easily. Edu comes in as sporting director. He's a roadblock. And so it's conversations, not as many direct conversations that Nuno could have with Marinakis. They had to go through Edu, and then it went to Marinakis. And so all of that coming together, David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor et al., now gives us Ange Postecoglou in charge at Nottingham Forest. A lot of different things going on, and obviously the curiosity factor, big, now that Ange has signed this 2-year deal. First approached by Marinakis in early August, meaning Ange, not Nuno. But Nuno was given time to see how he would adapt to the new sporting structure. Edu, technically the global head of football. After the draw to Crystal Palace, August 22nd, quote, our relationship has changed and we are not as close. Everybody at the club should be together, but this is not the reality. Apparently, Nuno's comments, according to TalkSport, caught Marinakis off guard, sealed his fate. Marinakis talks to Postecoglou. Leadership starts the plan. Ultimately, Nuno was not viewed as on the same page as Edu or Marinakis. Postecoglou had turned down the chance to take over for Jose Mourinho at Fenerbahce. And so it was very, very swift. Forest sources had claimed Oliver Glasner and then Doni Iraola had also were admired by Marinakis, so that would have been Palace and Bournemouth, along with Fulham boss Marco Silva. And I'm guessing Marco Silva might have jumped at the chance. He'd been in charge of Forest, meaning Nuno, almost 2 years after replacing Steve Cooper in December of 2023. Kept him safe at that campaign, highest finish in almost 30 years. Sources have told TalkSport Nuno asked for being aggressive in the market, then started to voice concerns with squad size growing too big, known for wanting to work with smaller squads. We mentioned everything with Edu and Nuno. Edu failed to sign Adama Traore in the summer. Forest sources insist Edu did everything possible. Fulham didn't want to sell without finding a replacement, but those close to Nuno argue when the player called when called, the player told them no approach had been made. So there's all of that. Once again, truth probably somewhere in the middle. And so now Nottingham Forest, once again, middle of the pack, 3 weeks in, 1-1 and 4 points. So you're middle of the pack. You've got some work to do. And we will see where Ange Postecoglou is when it comes to Nottingham Forest going forward. Independiente. I wanted to get into this, obviously, because of what we had been discussing several times over with what happened in South America in the Copa Sudamericana. And yesterday, it was revealed, at least by the club in a prepared statement, that they felt the decision was a political decision, that they were not allowed to continue in the Copa Sudamericana. They referred to it as an injustice in releasing a statement. After the CONMEBOL ruling was known, obviously, the Libertadores de America, because they believe it is a total injustice that Universidad de Chile is in the quarterfinals and they are not. Then on social media, everything went berserk. So Independiente records a statement and they read it on social media, various players reading various parts. And so now with the disqualification having happened with Independiente, they went on social media and they believe that it is now an injustice what happened with them in the Copa Sudamericana. And I want to get the statement in and of itself. So they claim political bias in this case. And according to La Nación, to start, I'd like to just click on an article. Just give me the article. That's all I want. I'm not asking for much. I just want the article, people. I just want to read what they were saying. Come on now. La Nación, La Tercera, the hard press of the Independiente campus, without naming the Universidad de Chile or CONMEBOL. So that was that was how it. And this is going through Google Translate. So bear with me here. Rodrigo Rey, Ivan Marcon, and Federico Mancuello expressed the player's position after the disqualification, and they are reading a statement. So Independiente releases the official statement on Instagram of the Instagram account of their captain, Rodrigo Rey, showing a strong stance. And this is translated from La Nación. In the message, the players expressed their helplessness over the serious incidents that occurred at the Libertadores de America Stadium during the second leg of the round against Universidad de Chile, and something else, the support of the Argentine soccer community. Quote, just like our fans, we are experiencing the same feeling of pain and injustice amidst the sadness and helplessness. It's not easy to express ourselves, just as it's not easy to put into words everything we've experienced over the past few days and how we feel about the final decision. 24 hours after CONMEBOL issued their ruling ordering the team's elimination from the Sudamericana, they have sporting and financial fines. Independiente returned. The Avellaneda club published a statement on social media directly addressing Alejandro Dominguez, president of CONMEBOL, asking him to return all material relating to Independiente displayed in the organization's museum. Independiente addresses you to express, and this is the letter, its strongest condemnation of the decision issued by the entity you preside, which ignores its current regulations and unjustly condemns our institution, begins the letter signed by the president, Nestor Grandetti, and General Secretary Daniel Swan. Then specifically addresses the decision to eliminate Independiente from the Cup, allowing Universidad de Chile to continue. Sets a disastrous precedent A team that was ahead in the series but faced the real possibility of being overtaken on the field resorts to the most brutal violence against rival fans. They get the match canceled and receive a desk as a reward to qualify. In other words, violence becomes a shortcut to avoid competing sportingly until the end. Ruling contradicts that vision, sends a devastating and contradictory message to all of South America. The usual violent ones can get away with it, end quote. This Monday, after that statement had been initially released, the team says injustice is the feeling that invades us because we did not have the opportunity to compete in the qualifying round on the field, but instead we have to see and feel how a group of visiting fans who came to our stadium with the clear intention of attacking our fans, today they are surely celebrating that their acts of violence have resulted in their team qualifying. Players emphasized at the heart of the riots, they asked match authorities to suspend the game. Quote, we ourselves insisted that they take action because everything was getting out of hand, but there was no response or action taken to that request. Everything just dragged on, which ended up further increasing the levels of violence, desperation, and insecurity in the stands. Statement continues. They also warned against the negative precedent, sending a dangerous message. That's why we want to ask Argentine clubs and their players for the support they may need one day, because this precedent is leading us toward a dark place for the future of fair competition. Those who believe there was only one winner are completely wrong. Football lost here. So La Nacion with the translation of the statement on Instagram that Independiente is more than just a little fired up. Let me check and see. Let me say hi to everybody. Let me do that. And Ricky doing the producer's work as he always does. Cristiano Ronaldo, USMNT. Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo is in line for a U.S. return. So at the age of 702, Cristiano Ronaldo set to return as a part of the Portuguese squad in the worldwide competition where they're chasing after a cup, and we will see what this is World Cup 2026. What we're hearing, in line to play in the U.S. for the first time in more than a decade. Anonymous sourcing, obviously. USMNT is seeking to play games against both Portugal and Belgium in March. Location still to be fully signed off, but likely to take place in an NFL-sized venue on the East Coast. Translation, Meadowlands. Mauricio Pochettino has expressed a desire to face teams from different confederations to test his players in the year leading up to the competition. Friendlies against Portugal and Belgium, both currently ranked among the world's best top 10, according to FIFA, contingent on both European teams qualifying for the tournament in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Portugal is also in line to play against Mexico at the Azteca in the same March window. Would end a 12-year absence of Cristiano Ronaldo playing in the United States. Hasn't appeared since August 2 of 2014. Came on as a sub. Real Madrid, Manchester United at the Big House. Played for Portugal and the U.S. earlier that summer against the Republic of Ireland. YouGov polling in the U.S. ranks Ronaldo as the second best-known player among the American public, second only to Lionel Messi. I'm not shocked. U.S. eyeing up a UCI base in 2026. England is looking at Kansas City. Might be at Cal Irvine. So Zot, USMNT. Harry the Anteater, look it up. So might be Cal Irvine, the location for that. And the English Football Association might be decided by the draw. Representatives have visited Kansas City. 3 training sites on the FIFA guide. Current, Sporting, Kansas. And the Chiefs, obviously, in St. Joe's, Missouri, not a team base, but available for nations who need training or facilities for a day or two between matches. English FA officials have also paid a visit to Charlotte FC's facility in North Carolina. World Cup volunteers have been promised lasting friendships, but USA visas are unclear, according to The Athletic. FIFA said approximately 65,000 volunteers will be called upon. Unpaid. FIFA said volunteer-relating expenses are not covered. Have to arrange your own travel to the host countries and accommodations. You get a uniform and meals, as well as a certificate, and FIFA say lasting friendships. Some of you already know this. Volunteers expected to attend tryouts as well as undergoing training and attending a minimum of 8 shifts. Athletic has been told by people close to the process, the U.S. State Department, which handles visas for entry into the U.S., is yet to provide clarity to FIFA as to which visa class FIFA volunteers should apply for when seeking to enter the country for the tournament. This is despite Gianni Infantino telling the press conference in Kenya that there's a lot of misconception out there about U.S. immigration policy. State Department spokesperson said, quote, working diligently to ensure an efficient, smooth, and effective visa process which protects America's security. So that is the World Cup latest on what's going on. And we will continue to see as things grow and develop. And develop is the word that we're looking for. The word is develop, John. Let's say hi to everybody. Morning, Abby. Morning, David. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Nix. Morning, Pars. Pars is in this morning. Good morning. Morning, Ricky, once again. And that is everybody who is participating in the Twitch pitch. Okay. I've kind of laid off on this until we had a little time to breathe. Chris Doran's going to join us in about 15 minutes. Yesterday, you had a decision come down from Major League Soccer having to do with the activities at the end of the Leagues Cup match, the Leagues Cup final, involving Messi and Friends and Seattle. So we get the decision from the decision makers about their decisions. And you end up with the following on top of what was laid out by Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup said, okay, Luis Suarez, you get a six-match suspension. And you end up with a couple of other folks getting their finger wagged at for a couple of matches in Leagues Cup. So yesterday, MLS comes on top of the ban, announces Luis Suarez gets an additional 3-match suspension for spitting on a member of the Sounders staff. He gets to miss matches against Charlotte, Seattle, and DC United. You kind of had a feeling that if there was going to be something that was going to be on top of the Leagues Cup 6-match ban, you probably were going to push it past the Seattle match, because if there was an opportunity for Luis Suarez to play in the matchup against Seattle on September 16, that there would have been receipts. I'm anticipating, I'm not saying I know who, and obviously we'll talk to Nico about it a little more on Thursday. But you end up with another 3 matches for Luis Suarez. The match on that Tuesday, by the way, is at the Erector set. But I would have anticipated some kind of receipt. Somebody being called up maybe from Tacoma, somebody who's on the verge of yellow card accumulation. There probably would have been a receipt, and it would have gone out of control all over again. Leagues Cup, once again, confirms Suarez gets a 6, which means basically next year you're not playing in it. And part of me is wondering, okay, are you even going to be back next year? Is this going to be a Clint Dempsey, Mike Petke kind of a thing? Like you wander off into the sunset. If you ever come back, then this is what's going to hit you. So we went over the Suarez apology, said what he said. We went over Messi and Friends team statement. MLS will also revoke the credential privileges for Steven Lenhart, a member of the Seattle Sounders staff, for the remainder of the 25 regular season and postseason for his involvement in the fight that broke out between the two teams after the final. Quote, MLS in a press release, Lenhart will only be permitted in public seating areas during Seattle Sounders FC home matches, cannot be on or near the field of play, nor in or around the locker rooms or tunnel. His access will again be reviewed at the head of the 2026 MLS season. Sounders have also been fined by the league and forced to pay an undisclosed amount for, quote, misappropriation of credentials, end quote. I'm guessing, I have no concrete knowledge, but if Lenhart was on a credential and went into an area that MLS deemed not accessible through his credential, then I guess that's where the misappropriation comes from. I'm guessing. That's my extrapolation of events. Busquets and Aviles also had Leagues Cup sanctions, getting 2 and 3. Busquets and Aviles, however, get no additional punishment from Major League Soccer. Jackson Reagan did not. John Bell did not. Thomas Aviles did not. Sergi Busquets did not. Maxi Falcone did not. Cello Weigand did not. We had, 8, I think, individuals that had been earmarked in that coming together. Suarez gets an additional 3, and that's it. Nobody else. I find the choice is interesting. I find the choice very, very interesting. That on tape, and Ricky, I don't know. Ricky's asking, how did Messi and friends not get fined? I don't know. I don't know. How did Sergi Busquets not get an additional match or 2? Because once again, you can go to 2, and the MLSPA doesn't have I don't believe they have the right for an appeal. You can go to 2, you're okay. More than 2, then I think the MLSPA has the in their pocketbook, they have the activity that they can appeal. That is a codicil in the disciplinary process. You go more than 2, then I think MLSPA has the right to appeal. How Sergi Busquets, who we see on tape deliver a short right to Obed Vargas, and I'm left-handed, so I'm going to do it with my left hand. But literally, you see you have Busquets, Sergio. You have Sergio on the back deliver a short right to Obed Vargas. Literally, and I don't care about impact or whatever. You literally have a short right to Obed Vargas. You literally see Maxi Falcone having someone on a chokehold. I think it was Vargas. Cello Weigand, Thomas Aviles, I think they were taking swings. I'll go back and look. But the 2 that stick out, or 3. I think Aviles, if I remember correctly, was taking swings. Maxi Falcone had someone on a chokehold from behind. I think it was Vargas. Jackson Reagan had folks in a chokehold. Yes, I understand it was because he was defending a teammate, but nevertheless, you still had someone in a chokehold. And you still only give Luis Suarez the suspension. You still only give Luis Suarez the suspension on top of what Leagues Cup delivered. Literally, this for me would be one of those where you're like Reverend Jim in Taxi. You're just kind of like, honky dock. It was, nothing from Busquets, nothing from Aviles. Busquets got a 2 in Leagues Cup. Aviles got a 3. Aviles threw punches, according to Paul Tenorio. And the only one that gets the extra is Luis Suarez, and that's this year. So I am confused. I'm thoroughly confused. But that's where we are with that particular judgment, with everything that we saw on tape. And we played the tail end of the match as it aired, or after it aired, not as it aired, because if it was as it aired, we'd get in trouble. After it aired, we played the ending of that match. And literally, we sat there and zaprudered the film after we listened to the call. Aviles and Busquets taking swings. Jackson Reagan with folks in a chokehold. Maxi Falcone. I mean, literally, Jackson Reagan is like this. Maxi Falcone is trying to, do, maybe a triangle choke from behind. And the only one who gets popped is Luis Suarez. Obed Vargas got popped in the jaw. Like I said, I don't care how harsh the shot was. I don't. I'm just as confused as everybody else. But that is the decision that was made by Major League Soccer in the Leagues Cup final, about the Leagues Cup final. But yes, something would have happened when Seattle goes September 16th. Garen Blankenty, something would have happened. And it would have gone sideways all over again. So I'm guessing that the league wanted to include that match in there so you don't have anything. That way you go more than two. You have that third match in there so you don't have anything happen at the erector set. I will be intrigued as to what the starting lineups look like on the 16th, on that Tuesday night. It will be must-watch television. Will the teams just go out there and play? How chippy will it be? How many reminders and receipts will there be? That, to me, is the intriguing question of the whole thing. What does it look like? What does it look like on the 16th when these two teams square off again? What does it look like? So we got that coming up. We'll keep an eye on it, and it'll be interesting, to say the very least. So, yeah, that puts an end to a really cool tournament. It's a different kind of punctuation attached to it. It gives you question marks now instead of exclamation points. And I'm hoping that we get to have a post-mortem with our friends from the Leagues Cup about the tournament in and of itself. Obviously, we'll try and figure out a way to discuss the ending and how much of probably the way that we would phrase it is how much of a learning experience was it for the tournament, sadly, to have to learn from a situation like what happened in the final. Probably that's how we'll phrase it. So that's the thought anyway. But yeah, yesterday, the largest piece of news that came out other than what went down overseas with Nottingham Forest is the additional couple of matches involving individuals. We're getting there. It's close to the bottom of the hour. We might welcome him in a little early, just because, And it's always fun to catch up with our friend Chris Doran and find out anything and everything going on involving Columbus Crew. And it'll be our education, opposition research, choice D, all the above. We get to kind of find out what's going on. And we'll ask about an event that's actually happening tonight. Chris has been kind of keeping an eye on folks that have been doing training and following along and everything. And so we bring in Chris Doran and the velvet tones of Chris Doran, by the way.
John, it's so good to see you. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. I have a question of that I will end our segment with, and it has to do with the item over your right shoulder in the corner of your office.
Yeah,
on the floor.
The guitar.
The guitar. So I have a guitar-based question that I will save to the ending. I do want to lead off with. I mean, we were discussing, and you can take it in whatever direction you want. We were discussing the suspension that was added to Luis Suarez before you came in as one of the big pieces of news coming out of Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup made their decision. Then MLS makes their decision and says that Luis Suarez gets an additional 3, and that's it. Nobody else gets nothing. Luis Suarez gets a 3. When you saw this in Leagues Cup, what was your initial thought? And now that the league has come down with their decision on top of what the Leagues Cup has come up with, their disco, what's your process of this particular run of events?
Well, it's a great discussion point, and obviously it's been an active topic on social media. I did see the whole thing. I did not pursue alternative camera angles if they were out there. Saw a few fans shooting video from the stands. First and foremost, it's the most unfortunate outcome to what was a pretty spectacular evening of soccer for Seattle. Not just the game itself, but the environment, the 60,000 fans, the promotion of turning in one jersey for another. I just thought the whole thing was terrific. It was great for the club, it was great for the league, and it was great for Leagues Cup. So really disappointing in the end. My tendency, John, is to look at some of the things that really are maybe not capturing the spotlight. For example, you mentioned Luis Suarez. He was the only player who got the additional suspension from the league. But Steven Lennart, who is part of the Seattle coaching staff as a mental health coach, also has his credential pulled for the season by the league. I just thought that was hilarious that he was even involved. If he's a part of helping the club and the players with their mental health and he's involved in that melee at the end, what does that say to you about your hiring practices? He used to be a member of the Columbus Crew, so I feel a little bad talking about it. With regards to Suarez getting the 3 games, I mean, the league's got to do something. I don't think everyone is ever going to feel like it was enough, but if you back up the microscope just a bit and say to yourself, okay, what has the league had to do in order to accommodate Miami's growth and build over the last several years? You come to understand that, and I think the league would admit this too, they've kind of gone all in on Miami, and with good reason. Lionel Messi's down there. Unfortunately, if you live by the buildup, you're going to die by the buildup too. And I don't think that the league wanted to be in a situation where Miami makes this last thrust into the playoffs and then through the postseason without one of their star players, and the continuing conversation of, well, if Suarez were here, he would certainly help Messi win MLS Cup.
Right.
So I just feel like the league was in a tough spot, but I think the league put themselves in that spot. I also don't like the fact that it took Suarez 4 days to go out on social media with a statement. I don't like that it took Miami 4 days to get out there on social media with a statement. So that's an indication that the PR people, the comms people, and the league were all in cahoots in figuring out exactly what they should say and shouldn't say. The timing of the Leagues Cup announcement of suspension, and then 48 hours later, we get the Leagues Cup suspension announcement, or the league's announcement of a suspension. It's all coordinated, but unfortunately, it has to be in our day and age. And then beyond that, does it go far enough? You'll always have people who say it doesn't. But I think the league had to just keep it short.
Yeah, and when you mentioned Messi and friends down in Fort Lauderdale, I give them credit as an ownership group for pushing the envelope when it comes to acquisitions and navigating the salary cap and however you want to refer to it. I give them credit for chasing after all the big guns that they're bringing down there.
Sure.
And I think what it does is it reminds all of the other ownership groups, it's like, okay, they're doing their things that way. If you want to go and hang out with the Joneses and do that, that's your prerogative. They've shown the way you can do that. But it also reinforces, if you're comfortable with your way of doing things, it's just a reminder, let them do their thing, we'll do our thing, and we'll be fine. So I think that there's a lot of buttons economically that are working for Inter Miami, and that's their thing. It reminds folks, you can go down that road if you want, caveat emptor, buyer beware in a situation like that, though.
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. And I applaud the league for taking the chance with Messi and making it happen. They did the same thing with David Beckham 15 years ago. And the first thing Beckham wanted when he landed in Los Angeles was the opportunity to be loaned out for the off season. And that was like, whoa, hold on a second. Is David not happy with being in Los Angeles and the welcome that he's been given and all the money from Adidas and the cash that's been laid out for him to play in Los Angeles? So that was kind of a cluster as well. I agree with you. I think the ownership group pushed the envelope in Miami, and they're enjoying the benefits of that. But where the league's concerned, I think they just probably are in a tough spot. And I don't care. We're going to probably see Miami in the playoffs. I just want to beat them. That's all I want.
you and everybody else in Major League
Right.
Soccer, you, sir, are in a majority opinion in that regard. There's something going on tonight there in Columbus. Has to do with the national team or something. I don't know. Some team that folks are yelling about that they're not all happy. Everyone's ever going to be 100% happy when it comes to the USM&T anyway. What is the vibe in town as they're getting ready for this game where, let's see, the sky is falling. Mauricio Pochettino doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
What is this starting lineup that he's got out there? What is he looking for? Where are the big stars? What questions am I missing? I'm sure they're all out there when it comes to what is the vibe like there in Columbus getting ready for this matchup with the US and Japan?
Well, John, great question. And as usual, you have your finger on the pulse of the disgruntled in America when it comes to the men's national
Has anybody
team.
ever been gruntled, Chris?
Well, I'll tell you what, you even go back to 2001, which is 25 years ago, when Columbus was the host for the very first qualifier between the U.S. men's national team and Mexico. That is to say that Columbus was hosting for the first time. And it's 28 degrees outside. Brad Friedel's in goal for the U.S. Mauricio Campos, I think, was the goalkeeper for Mexico. And it was intentional that game be played in Columbus in the middle of winter because Mexico had been such great sports of taking the U.S. men's national team to Estadio Azteca in the middle of summer at elevation with bags of who knows what coming out of the stands. So it was just sort of tit for tat at that point. So 25 years later, here we find ourselves. And by the way, that was the first of 4 Dos a 0 results against Mexico in Columbus. 25 years later, we find ourselves in a position of having to host here in Columbus. We absolutely adore it. Now, you can talk to the people who are lifelong soccer fans in this town, and they are thrilled with the opportunity of having the red, white, and blue in the city. I was out at Ohio Health Performance Center yesterday. The guys were training. Spirits were great. The weather was terrific. And I think there's a thought from the team that they've got to do better than they did on Saturday night. And there's a spirit that understands there's a way to do it against a team from Japan that's already qualified and as well plays very much like South Korea. So I think that the mission is probably pretty clear from the head coaching staff on down. I think the understanding is that they're on sacred ground here in Columbus. The men's national team is 10-1-3 in 14 appearances here in the great city of Columbus, and they want to do right by the crowd that shows up tonight. I suspect that we'll see some fans of the Japanese national team in town. I don't know how many. I kind of doubt it's going to be equal to the number of South Korean fans who showed up in Harrison on the weekend. What's your gut tell you about tonight? My gut tells me that my wife and I will be sitting field side and enjoying the sights. We don't get to go to games very often together, as you might suspect. And so when we have the opportunity, we kind of seize it. So it'll be a special night. I'm anxious to see Max Arfsten at least get a whiff of playing time, if not a start. In addition to that, don't forget that Sebastian Berhalter spent 6 years in this city. His dad was head coach of the Columbus Crew before Greg took over with the men's national team. So Sebastian was a part of the Columbus Crew Academy while he was growing up. It'll be a really fun evening. It'll be beautiful in terms of the weather. The pitch is in terrific shape. It's been cared for over the last 2.5 weeks since our last home game. And I really think that it'll be a fun night for everybody. For someone who doesn't have the luxury of seeing Columbus as much as you do, what does Max Arfsten bring to the table in a Columbus sense and in a national team sense from your observations? What does he bring? Because he's gotten a lot of slings and arrows in his short time there from the disgruntled folks. From someone who is gruntled where Max Arfsten is concerned, what does he bring to the table? Well, I think people who have watched him over the last couple of years certainly understand that his trajectory doesn't appear to have a ceiling. And that's the most positive part about it. It means that he's a great student. He puts the work in, and you do get results. He's increased in his performance as it relates to shooting opportunities that he's created with the Columbus Crew this year. And then beyond that, has been a tremendous contributor, not just on one side, but on the opposite side too, as Wilfried Nancy has experimented with certain points in different matches, switching the wingers. He does the work defensively, getting back in that 3-5-2 lineup that Wilfried likes to use. And then beyond that, we'll go ahead and get the work done on the attacking side of the ball. So from a Columbus standpoint, he's an integral part of our attack. I think the addition of Ibrahim Ali, of Wessam Abu Ali, is going to make things even more interesting as we learn to find him in dangerous spots and complete plays at the attacking end of the field. I think the sky's the limit. We've heard rumors that there have been teams that have called about his availability, and the club has, it's been rumored, opted to hold Max until the end of the season, and likely ship him out at some point on a contract. But for now, he's in Columbus, and we're glad he's wearing the red, white, and blue tonight.
Question for you with your observations yesterday when you were at OHPC. The other half of the equation was not at practice, and when Sean is dinged or nursing an injury, what have you, however you want to phrase it, obviously that's going to be one of your storylines heading into this weekend. If he's available under normal circumstances, when you look at someone like Sean, who to me is much like Max, he's kind of a joker. It's like, okay, so he's here. He's atypical wherever you put him until the whistle blows. What does he bring to the table for folks who haven't seen him, and what do you lose if he's not available this weekend?
Well, it's a great question, John, and I appreciate you asking about him, because we were disappointed to get the news yesterday that Sean injured himself with the national team last week in Harrison, training for that friendly against South Korea on the weekend. He didn't dress on Saturday, and he will not dress tonight. There are still some questions as to whether or not he'll be available at all this weekend. My suspicion is that it's either one or the other. It could be a devastating injury, or it could be something that keeps him out for a couple of weeks. But I think what Wilfried Nancy and the Columbus Crew miss from a player like Sean Zawadzki is sort of the Swiss Army knife of all different types of player profiles. A guy who can play in a lot of different spots, and unfortunately actually had to play goal for us last year against Seattle because we had a goalkeeper that was red carded in the 23rd minute. Sean started and grew as a midfielder, went to Georgetown out of the academy, and came back to the to the Columbus Crew as a midfielder, played alongside Darlington Nagbe. When Rudy Camacho went down, our center back, it was Sean who dropped back between the two outside center backs and sustained, we thought, very good, consistent performances game to game. That's where he's been all season long for the most part, and has done very, very well. Have there been some problems defensively? Yes, but it can't all be on Sean Zawadzki, and it can't all be on the goalkeeper either. This team depends on pushing forward with the ball and everyone dropping back in recovery without the ball. And we've had a lot of problems with teams who have been able to get past our midfield when they take over in transition and create these isolated 1v1 or 2v1 situations that create goals for them. Zawadzki is a big miss if he's not available, no matter where coach decides to play him. And it does mean that our center back force is thinned out. We go from 5 in the stable to 4 in the stable. Although Andres Herrera could be pulled back as a center back, he's been doing so well in the midfield, it would be yet again another spot where we would have to plug somebody in.
Do you know if Steven Moreira has, how do we phrase this? Does he has a private jet? Is he going to be able to make it from? Because are you going to be watching Cape Verde at noon in their activity in the AFCON, as they are a slight favorite against Cameroon, to make sure that he gets back so he can be a part of things on the weekend?
It would be wonderful if the coach would rule him out and they'd put him on a plane now, wouldn't it? But that would be selfish. You, John, have been around enough soccer players to hear them just gloat with the opportunity to represent their national team. And I think it means so much to Stephen to be able to do this. I wish him and Cape Verde all the luck in the world as they take on a very tough Cameroon team in an effort to qualify for the World Cup. In our experience on these types of international window schedules, Stephen typically doesn't get back until Wednesday night, early Thursday. Maybe he trains, maybe he doesn't Thursday, and then Friday, the tactical session. The guys get on the plane, fly to Atlanta Friday afternoon. Stephen could be on the bench on Saturday in all likelihood. And in that scenario, we'd have to go again into the roster and start pulling players to sub in for him. The flip side to that is 60 minutes out of Steven Moreira can be a dangerous 60 minutes if Columbus is on cue with everything. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Wilfried Nancy handles it on the weekend.
Chris Doran with Oppo Research getting us ready for Columbus and their visit to Atlanta and Mercedes-Benz on the weekend. One other player that I wanted to get your opinion of. What has it been like to see Jason Russell-Rowe's game advance to where it is these days?
It's been good. I think Jason wants more out of his game. I think Wilfried Nancy wants more out of Jason's game. I'll be very candid. I'm not exactly sure if Jason maybe needs another coach's voice in his head. And I'm not being critical of Jason at all. I just feel like there's probably a little bit more from Jason as a pro athlete, as a goal scorer. And, I think Wilfried brings the best out of all the players he works with. But I think players can also limit the reception of the messages, either consciously or subconsciously. And I feel like we maybe have hit, I won't say a wall, but I feel like there may be an impasse where Jason Russell-Rowe might actually benefit from hearing from a different voice. Again, not being critical of either the player or the coach. Right. As a coach myself, I understand that players get to a point where they need something different or something more. I don't know that Jason is, at 22, able to acknowledge that he needs another voice. And I think Wilfried Nancy has got a track record of player development that may keep Jason Russell-Rowe in the Columbus Crew camp, knowing that he can make inroads with this young player. But I think we expected a little more from Jason, given the departure of Christian Ramirez and Cucho Hernandez, the opportunities night in and night out of regular starts for Russell-Rowe. And I just don't know that we've seen it all. And I don't know if he gets the opportunity to show it all here with Columbus, or if maybe the opportunity exists elsewhere.
From your keenest of keen observations, what concerns Columbus Crew the most about Atlanta, and what are they most confident about coming into this matchup going up against Atlanta?
Well, I think they're very confident in their system. They always have been. Going on the road is never a problem, and it's because they invest so much in making sure that the roles and responsibilities are covered, so the details are covered. This draw that we had in Harrison 2 weeks ago would have looked terrific in the middle of June. You go up against a fired up Red Bull squad on the road, a field that had just received new turf 4 days before the game. And you get out of there with a scoreless draw. It's a great shutout for Patrick Schulte. He had 4 saves on the night. We didn't have quite as many shots as I think probably the coaching staff and players would have liked, but it's still a scoreless draw. It's 1 point on the road at a tough place to play. Unfortunately, it came with 7 games left in the league schedule. And so while there may have been some frustration on the fan base side, it's still, you still have to take the good with the ugly. And I think there was a lot of good that came out of that. So there is some confidence there. The downside is, while the Crew does have 2 weeks to get used to Wessam Abu Ali, he's been gone with Palestine for the
Right.
last week.
Yep.
So you really haven't had the time to get accustomed to him. And then the 2-week break is also providing Columbus with the opportunity to let Darlington Nagbe continue to heal without being tested on a weekend. My hope, of course, is that Nagbe is available this weekend. Mo Farsi could be coming back from his injury. That starts to add to the stable a little bit. We'll learn more about the availability this week.
Yeah, as you sit there and you look at my notes, cross that question off of the board with the whether or not it was a good time for a 2-week break. Before we get to Saturday, your IU football team is taking on Indiana State Friday night.
Oh boy!
And it is in Bloomington, 6:30 kick for ISU and number 22 Indiana. And is this a homecoming game, or is this just a visit from the friends from Terre Haute? What's going on there?
I only follow wins and losses. I don't know what the ceremony is around it. I'm so glad that you brought it up. I think Kurt Signetti has been just a firecracker for that program and for that town. And I have a lot of friends who just embrace everything that he's doing. He has demanded so much from the athletic department in terms of raising the level off the field, and he has matched expectations on the field. If he can duplicate what he did last year, I think everyone will be happy. I don't know that running through an Ohio State football team at some point during the season is something that can be fairly expected by Indiana Hoosier football fans.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly it'll be a big Friday night when Indiana State comes to town. We'll have a lot of folks coming into town for that matchup, as Terre Haute is only about 45 minutes away.
And then after that, it's Illinois. Then you go to Iowa. Then you go to Eugene, and it just continues to roll. So it's that is a big honking schedule that you've got coming up in the next couple of weeks. Okay, my wrap up question for you, and thanks for putting up with all of my tangents as you always do.
You are so entertaining. Don't worry about it.
Over your right shoulder, you have what some folks refer to as a guitar.
Yes.
And so what I wanted to do was, if you had the opportunity to sit in a jam session with said guitar, who would you want to sit on a stage and jam with, given the chance? Who would you want to sit there and it's like, yeah, I'll trade licks with that dude?
Wow. Well, that's a delightful question. And I should preface it by my answer by telling you I can't play worth a devil. I really can't. I mean, thank goodness for the iPad and all the lessons that are available out there on the interweb, because it gives me the chance to hang out in the office and play with it. But that's about it. Eric Clapton's doing a show in Cleveland here in a couple of days.
Ooh.
And Clapton's from Ohio. He's been to Columbus Crew games. The one concert I missed out on, John, when I was working in music radio some years ago, was to go see Eric Clapton play and sit very close to the stage, which would have been incredible.
Okay.
So I would say that if I had the opportunity, I would sit on a stage with Eric Clapton and probably just sit and admire him for the 2-hour jam session.
It's like, yeah, just dude, I'm right here. If you need a riff, I'll give you a riff, but I'm just going to sit and watch. That is a tremendous pull, and any jam session with Eric Clapton would not be suboptimal. Go ahead, and if you would, sir, for folks that wish to listen to anything and everything going on Columbus Crew with you and the cast of thousands that makes it happen, go ahead and cut the promo for me.
John, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Inside the Crew airs Wednesday nights on iHeartRadio, and you can catch the podcast on Thursday. Follow us on Twitter and get the link instantly on Thursday morning on your ride to work. We'll have plenty of coverage of the men's national team, including a couple of one-on-one interviews with Sebastian Berhalter and Max Arston, and then look forward to this weekend against Atlanta.
Looking forward to it as always, my friend. Thanks for always dropping by. And like I said, you know where the key is under the mat. You know where the garage door opener is. If there's anything you ever want to get off your chest, you know how to do it. It's always great to see you, and we'll catch up soon, my friend.
You're terrific, John. Thanks so much for having me.
You got it, Chris Doran, and he knows anything and everything about everything going on in Columbus. Crew, national team, guitars, IU football, all of it. He's what we refer to as a stud. Doran is a stud without any question. And it's always great to be able to circle back and catch up with him and find out what's going on. I did have those burning questions about the back, and I think that it's something that to pay attention to. Moreira and Travel coming back from AFCON, the Zawadzki injury and the progress therein. Is it just a knock or a ding, or is it something more substantial? And finding out what the layout is and trying to make sure that the connection with Wessam Abu Ali continues to grow. Darlington Nagbe continues to heal with a couple of weeks off. And so that is what you're staring at in the street fight that is the Eastern Conference in Major League Soccer. So once again, just to kind of recap the street fight as we break it all down here. Eastern Conference, we know, is going to be a race to the bitter end. We know it is. Figuring out who's going to go where and do what. Here's the rundown. Philadelphia's in. We just don't know where. 5 points clear. They're at 57 points, 29 matches played. Cincinnati's at 52. Charlotte and Nashville are at 50. Charlotte has one more win. Orlando is at 47 points. They're the 5. They have a match in hand. Messi and Friends have as many as 4 matches in hand. They have 3 on Orlando, 4 on 1 through 4. So if they were to run the table, say, if they ran the table in those 4 matches that they need to catch up on, they would be the number 1 seed. So we'll see what happens there with that. Columbus, they're in the street fight. They're at 46 points, 1 less win than Miami. But, of course, once again, Miami has 3 matches in hand on Columbus. Columbus right now is your 7. 12-6-10, 8-3-4 at home, 4-3-6 away from home this year. The 8-9 you're playing right now, NYC and Chicago. NYC is at 44 points, 27 matches, 13 wins. Chicago Fire, 42 points, 28 matches played. So NYC match in hand on the folks in front of them and behind them in the standings. Chicago at 42 points. They are the last one in right now. Once again, they've got a match in hand on Red Bulls, who are at 40 points. They are in 10th. And then there's a 9-point gap to New England. And then Atlanta at 26, Toronto at 25. Montreal and DC eliminated with 29 matches played and 24 points. That's your rundown there. Western Conference, in the interest of equal time. San Diego is in at 56 points, just don't know the where. 29 matches played. Same for the Loons, they're 5 points back. Vancouver and Seattle, however, have 2 matches in hand. Vancouver can get to the 2 and be right up against San Diego if they win out. If San Diego stumbles, Vancouver may have an outside chance with Jesper Sorensen and their crew to be the top seed, but they've got to win out and they've got to get help. Seattle at 44 points, 27 matches played. They're your 4. 5, LAFC, 2 matches in hand on Austin, same number of wins. LAFC match in hand on Seattle, 11 wins, 41 points. Portland is your 7 at 39. Colorado and San Jose are your play-in right now. Colorado at 36, San Jose at 35. Houston below them at 33 points in 10th. RSL and Dallas both at 31 points, 11 and 12. RSL has 2 matches in hand on the folks above them. They win out, they're in. Dallas, 31 points, 7 wins. They need to win a lot, and they need a lot of help. Kansas City at 27 points, 29 matches played. All Caps at 22 points and 29 matches played. And LA Galaxy, LAG's at 4-16-8. They've given up 56 goals this season, scoring only 33. 0-9-6 away from Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California this year. So that's your run-in right now as it stands heading into the weekend. But we'll keep an eye on things as we continue to press forward. Scoring updates in qualification in the AFCON. Kenya rolling all over the Seychelles. They're at 5-0 at a minus 5,000. They're at 90+. Namibia is a final. They knocked off Sao Tome and Principe. So it was a 2-on-1. Namibia won. in the odd man rush. They were a country down at a -625. They got the 3-0 win. Niger over Tanzania as a big underdog showing there to +448. They got the win 1-0. Zimbabwe loses to Rwanda. Rwanda, a big favorite on the road at a +177. And we are waiting on Sierra Leone, who is favored on the minus side, leading Ethiopia 1-0. That one is at 90+. Later today, it is a handful of matches at noon. You can watch them on the plus. Armenia, Ireland favored. Azerbaijan, Ukraine favored at a -256. Burkina Faso and Egypt favored at a +138. Cape Verde and Cameroon, we mentioned Steven Moreira for a crew. They're favored against Cameroon at a +174. DR Congo is a dog hosting Senegal at a +137. South Africa is a +167 hosting Nigeria, and Togo is a +131 hosting Sudan at a +252. 245, this is when it starts to drift into Europe. There is some AFCON at 3 o'clock. 245s, Albania favored with Latvia. Bosnia-Herzegovina, a big underdog hosting Austria. Romania favored at Cyprus. France a -1250 hosting Iceland. Hungary is a dog hosting Portugal at a -233. Norway, big favorite against Moldova at a -2,000. Serbia, a +330. England is a -109. So keep an eye on that one at 245. 3 o'clock, once again, you're drifting into AFCON. Tonight, remember, it's the last day of the CONMEBOL stages. We get to figure out who gets the play-in spot. Is it going to be the Vinotinto, who came out with a tremendous video on their social media? 3 o'clock, Angola, Mauritius, Benin, Lesotho, Gabon, Ivory Coast, Gambia, Burundi, Mauritania, South Sudan. That's your AFCON at 3 o'clock. 7 o'clock, Ecuador, Argentina. Argentina favored at a +166. Do they run the table? They don't necessarily need the 3 points considering how clear they are. Bolivia, Brazil. Brazil's a +125 at La Paz. Chile is an underdog hosting Uruguay at a +112. Peru favored at home against Paraguay at a +147. Venezuela is a +171 hosting Colombia at a +173. Venezuela, that's the one you're looking at 7:30 tonight. CONCACAF, 8 o'clock, Curacao, Bermuda. Curacao is big favorite. Jamaica, -270 hosting Trinidad and Tobago. 10 o'clock, Costa Rica, Haiti, -164 for Los Ticos. Honduras, a -278 hosting Nicaragua, who's a +716. So looking at the standings, once again, we'll go through how it looks in South America. Argentina in, Brazil, Uruguay, Ecuador, Colombia, Paraguay, 2 through 6. They're all within 3 points of each other, so it's the order that is going to be decided. Venezuela right now, 18 points, 1 point ahead of Bolivia. Venezuela gets Colombia. Remember, they're a slight favorite. Bolivia gets Brazil. So Venezuela has to, honestly, if Bolivia draws, Venezuela loses, Venezuela is still in because of superior goal difference. So if you're looking for Joseph and Ronald to make it into the World Cup in 26, Venezuela needs a result of some kind. Legitimately, they could have a kickabout for 90 minutes and they would get in. Bolivia has to win. Venezuela has to draw or lose. That's the only way Bolivia gets in. Bolivia has to win tonight, and then they would get in. The 7-8 for that play-in against Oceania, that's what you're looking at. And it looks like in the Oceania standings, in the third stage, it looks like in that third stage, New Zealand over New Caledonia by the score of 3-0. So keep an eye on all of that. It looks like New Caledonia might be the play-in from Oceania as New Zealand makes their way in. So it would be New Caledonia against the 7 from South America. So that's what you're staring at. Let me take a tour real quick and see if there's any other news that is fit to print or talk about before we're out the door. The Manchester City settlement, we kind of got into it a little bit yesterday, but not a lot. Like as the show was ending, this was coming down the pike. So Manchester City and the Premier League settled their dispute over rules that limit the ability of top-flight clubs to sign sponsorship deals with companies related to their ownership. This fight over so-called associated party transaction rules has been a challenge to the rule book. Both parties now step back, City agreeing to accept the legitimacy of the APT rules as they stand. They came out with a joint statement yesterday. City claimed an initial victory over the league in October. Arbitration panel found certain aspects of the rules within were discriminatory. Loans made by shareholders to their own club should have been included within APT, the panel adjudged, while there were also problems with the way in which clubs were given information on what might be fair market value in any given deal. After making adjustments to accommodate the panel's ruling, Premier League argued that any problems over APT had been resolved and its rulebook fit for purpose. City challenged the league's adjustments and began a new process of arbitration. It's the second process that has been resolved. Both parties are still in the process of determining the 130 alleged breaches of the Premier League rulebook. So it is the second case of APT and not the initial rundown of what happened with the discussions over the rules breaches. The new APT is what they came out with the joint statement with, and they were allegedly everybody's all happy now where that's concerned. But anyway, so that's what you're staring at with. That's what you're staring at with APT, Manchester City. They and the Premier League agreed, and so now they still have to fight over the 130 rule breaches. Sweden did lose yesterday to Kosovo. You figured Kosovo was going to steal somebody's lunch? Turned out to be Sweden. So Kosovo right now is the number 2 spot in Group B, and that is an inside track. So Sweden loses 2-0. Kosovo gets the winning group in their second match, and so that's where they are in Group B. Just to run it down really quickly. The only ones, so we've got Group D, who is playing match day 2. Group F is playing match day 2. And you have the 5-team groups that are in there either 5th or 4th or match day. They're really pushing the envelope in all of these. So it is currently Group A, Slovakia, 6 points. Northern Ireland, Germany. Northern Ireland has scored more goals. So they are in. Germany is currently out after match day 2. Luxembourg is in 4th. Group B, Switzerland, Kosovo, Sweden, and Slovenia. Group C, Denmark, Scotland, Greece, Belarus. Group D, match day 2 is today going in. Iceland and France have 1 win each. Ukraine and Azerbaijan have 1 loss. Group E, Spain, Georgia, Turkey, Bulgaria. Group F, Portugal, Hungary. So Portugal at 3 points. Hungary and Ireland with 1 point. Hungary has, we're down to like the 98th tiebreaker, but Hungary right now is at number 2. Ireland's at number 3. Armenia lost their first match. Once again, they play match day 2 today. Group G, Netherlands and Poland, 1-2. Finland at 7 points, 3 points back. Lithuania at 3 points. Malta is at 2. They've lost 3 of 5. Bosnia-Herzegovina lead Group H. Austria is at 9 points. Romania out at 6. Cyprus is at 3. And San Marino is at 5 matches played and only 1 goal scored. Group I, Norway, Italy, you're 1-2. Israel has a worse goal difference. Estonia is at 3 points. Moldova has lost all 4, and they have scored twice. Group J, North Macedonia, Belgium, and Wales, all separated by 1 point. Kazakhstan has 3 points. Liechtenstein has not scored. Group K, England, and once again, England playing today. England, 12 points. They've run the table so far in group. Serbia at 7, Albania at 5, Latvia 4, Andorra has not scored. Group L, Croatia and Czech Republic, they are both at 12 points. Croatia has an 11-goal advantage in goal difference. Faroe Islands at 6, Montenegro at 6, and Gibraltar has scored twice. They are 0 for their first 5. Now, let's see what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and we'll get you out of here. Once again, tomorrow's the Power Hour with Nuno and Nico coming up at 10 o'clock, and that'll be the last half hour of the show. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it today. It is World Cup qualifying, France and Iceland on FS2 at 2:45. USA-Japan is on TNT. That's at 7:30. ESPN Deportes has South Africa, Nigeria at noon. Telemundo has the CONCACAF doubleheader. Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Costa Rica, and Haiti at 8 and 10. To the NA simulcasting Mexico and South Korea at 9 o'clock. Universo has USA and Japan at 7:30. Honduras, Nicaragua at 10. And Univision has Mexico and South Korea at 9. All of the AFCON is on the Plus. All the 9 o'clock matchups we talked about. The 5 at noon and the 5 at 3. Fox Soccer Plus, Norway, Moldova at 2:45. Golazo Network has the simulcast of the 2 CONCACAF matchups, Jamaica, TNT, Costa Rica, and Haiti. HBO Max has USA and Japan. Paramount Plus has the 2 matchups at 8, Curacao and Bermuda, Jamaica, TNT, Costa Rica, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua at 10. Your pay-per-view action on picking up everything in CONMEBOL. That's going to be a boatload of money. I think it's like $15 a match. Peacock simulcasting USA, Japan, and Honduras and Nicaragua. Man, it's a big show. All right. So once again, I'm trying to see if I have missed anything. I don't think I have, unless there's anything on all of your collective minds as we exit the day here on a Tuesday. So once again, we're tracking stuff down as we always do. And tomorrow it's Tyler and Dylan. Tyler at 9:15 and Dylan Butler, the busiest man in the Northeast, is at 10 o'clock. So thanks to Chris Doran to get the opposition research about everything going on in Columbus, getting ready for Crew. Thanks to Scott Wells, the head coach at Gardner-Webb, profiling one of the top 15 teams in the country out of the blocks at 5-0, a big win at West Virginia, talking a lot about what it's like not to be a Power 4 team in NCAA Division I, leading the Big South along with High Point, and then leading things off Kacey White, calling 4 different leagues, 4 different levels, and we talked about all of them, and we set a modern-day record for leagues and conferences discussed with 1 interviewee. So as always, thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. That's another go-round of SDH AM. Back at it again in a little less than 22 hours. And since this is the end of the show, thanks to all of you for being a part of it as you always are. That means I get to do this. We'll talk about USA and Japan tomorrow. David is looking for predictions. Have fun predicting. We'll be watching. We'll catch up with all of you again, 9:05 Eastern time here across the network. Play it safe, everybody. Mucho platiel. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll see you tomorrow morning.